Right, so welcome to the last music and sound effect integration video game thingy course workshop, whatever you want to call it. So today we're just going to be looking at FMOD. A lot of people were confused and were intrigued about FMOD. It's really simple. It's actually really cool. So the first half of the course is really just going to be showing how FMOD works and how the multiple ways you can use it. And the other half would probably be like just how to integrate it to Unity and how to make sounds and music happen in the game, basically. So the first step is for some people who may have not downloaded it yet. I'm just going to show you how to do it. I got my little browser right here. I'm just going to go to Chrome or what have you. I'm just going to go fmod.com. You just want to click on Get FMOD. You're going to have to sign in. So if you don't have an account ready, you're just going to have to register. So here you're going to have to put in your name, email, and this is the industry like what you're going to be using before. Probably going to be game development. You're going to maybe want to call your team what it's called. So I would be doing that. Username, whatever you want to call it, or doesn't matter. Password, confirm password, and register. Now, FMOD is great, but something to consider, and the same thing with Wise, is FMOD usually does require a license fee. Now, if you are an indie developer, and I think the overall unit is under 200,000 per year, the funding is under 200,000 a year, then you are free to use commercially FMOD, which is why I'm kind of insisting on that, because on FMOD, not Wise. Wise is a different middleware. So I'm focusing on FMOD because it's free for indie composers and sound designers. If the overall revenue per year and funding is under 200,000 essentially, which might be the case for most of us at this point. So it's free for us. We can use commercially. We don't have to worry about a thing. You can even go like fmod fmod.com/legal. And they actually give you here, over here, see, total gross revenue funding per year for developer before expenses is less than 200,000. So it is free for if you make less than this a year for the overall units. So that being said, you just want to go back to fmod.com. Did this, you want to sign in, you want to register, you confirmed all this. Then you'd have a download button, either Mac or PC. You can download whatever you want. And I'll give you a few resources as well for you to work with. But I already have FMOD Studio right here. It even gives you like an example. These are the same files, it's on the same files. Let's create a new file. Let's create a new file so that what I think of doing is really just, that way we can just create together a file and we can go through the whole thing just so we can integrate it to the game or whatever game we're going to use. So let's just do this. I'm just going to go new projects. And there you go. That's the FMOD interface. It's really easy. If you want to add anything, you go in that little gray area right here. You want to right click here. You can put new event or new folder. So we can go new folder. We can go music, new folder, SFX. Pretty simple stuff. The one thing I would also mention is this is a bank. A bank is where the master output is for where you want it to go to. Now, this is important because every time you create something new, so if I go here, new event, I right-clicked on the music file, and I go new events, and let's say it's a 2D, you want it to be a 2D music, you go 2D timeline, and you want to call it main theme, for example. See, right here it says unassigned. That means it's not assigned to a bank, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to click it, drag it to banks, drag it to master. Or another way of doing it is we go back here. You can right click on main theme, assign to bank, browse, and it's going to be right here. So if you click that, boom, it's gone. It's now assigned. So every time you make an update of whatever it is, just don't forget that to make sure that it saves the update, you want to take it to the bank. But once it is assigned, you just have to press F7 and automatically saves it to the bank. So you don't have to always drag it around, just press F7 to really make sure that the saves are there and it's saved to the output, which is the master right here. So let's find a game that we can mess with, and let's integrate new things, shall we? Let's do it. Alright, so what we have here is basically the micro game from Unity called First Person Shooter. It's one of those games that you can just use and train. It's basically like a tutorial to help yourself. Let's take a look at the game and see how it works whenever it does run. Well, basically it's just like a normal shooter game. This is just like the core elements. So let's just get into it. You have your little pistol right here. Shoot, blast. I took off all the sounds of the game. There's a droid over there. I'm just going to go ahead and kill it. If I can destroy it. My accuracy is immaculate. Okay, as you can tell, a lot of potential for sounds, music, all that stuff. Some blaster noises, some healing noises. I'm just going to go down here. And that's where actually the boss is. So let's walk in. There's a boss. Woke up. Healing, because why not? And yeah, basically, you can just go ahead and shoot it as much as you can. I'm probably going to die, because I'm thinking of also to include a death sound. Alright, healing. There's another alien. Right now I'm just like generally playing the game just to show you the basics of how it is. Let me just die. There we go. I died. So that's the game. Pretty basic. There's a lot of room to grow, but I'm not a developer, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to show you the basics elements of how to integrate music and sounds to it. So I do have, if I just minimize this, I did create a folder with all the actual already sounds that were in the game. So that's not my sounds. Those are the sounds found. The sounds I found inside the game itself. There we go. If we relieve the player, now we have, I believe, enemies, notification, normal stuff. Alright, there you go, those are the sounds. So now let me just show you a bit how to set up FMOD, essentially. Okay, so FMOD, like I mentioned it before, it's a middleware. So something we use to integrate sounds and music to game engines. So basically the general vibe of how it works is you set up everything on FMOD, sorry. And then when you integrate to Unity, you have little to nothing to do over there. You just integrate it, and all the changes and all the modifications will be done through FMOD. Sometimes you have to include a few codes. I'll show you one or two today. One of them, which I don't really understand, the other one is the most common one, and you're probably going to be using it the most of the time. So now that I've kind of explained the general vibe of it, let's take a look at FMOD and see how it is, right? So let me just open the app itself. This is what the logo looks like. Now here's going to be recent projects. I'm just going to create a new project. Now here on the left is your hierarchy. Think of like Unity. This is your hierarchy. If you right click It's going to give you a bunch of options. You can even create folders. I'm going to call this one music. Let me show you again. So right click, new folder. I'm going to call it sound effects. And within, you can right click again on each. I'm just going to right click on music. I'm going to go new events and new 2D timeline. So you can do that for each. That is where the music or the sounds are going to go in. I'm going to call that one main music. That's where the main music is going to be. So one important thing is you want to drag it to the bank. You can also right click, and if you have assign bank, browse master. So you want to assign it for it to work. Essentially, you want it to be, think of like publishing it into the system, into the output. And here we can just new event. I can go new 2D timeline. Obviously, just create. I can call it whatever I want. So blaster, for example. I'm going to just copy pastes and just call them different things. So footsteps. There we go. I'm going to call that one alright, so essentially what's going on here is I'm basically just going to name them all after the files I just showed you. So this one's going to be called, I kind of forgot the names, I'm just going to have to go back on the file. Let's go pickup, or let's go enemies player. Alright, I'm just going to call this one jump. I don't want to save it yet. I'm going to call this one land. You know, just the basic stuff. I'm just going to name every single sound effect as well for the player specifically for now. And also what you can do is if I right click on S sound effects, I can create another, obviously I can create another 2D timeline, but I can also create folders. And so it's going to be folders within folders. I'll show you guys in a second. So this one's going to be here. I want to close the blaster. And I'm just going to copy all of them to drag them all to master. Obviously, I can also right click and assign them to the bank. What I'm going to do right now is, let me just double check here. So I'm going to create a folder. Well, first I'm going to create a folder first. I'm going to call this one player. And I'm going to drag all those to the player folder. So again, it's a folder within a folder. It's very straightforward, very basic. It's really easy to use, really easy to understand. I'm going to create another folder, one other 2D. Yeah, let's create another folder called maybe just enemies or interactional objects. I think for this one, I'm going to just call it enemy, yeah. And same principle. I'm just going to go ahead and add the same thing as I did here. New 2D timeline. Then we just go back on the folder. It's really, again, it's really easy. It's super straightforward. So let me just go enemy. And even then, I can also create different folders inside the enemy folder because there's two types of enemies, right? So hoverbots, and this one's going to be turrets. Alright, so here I noticed that they're all in 2D. So I decided maybe what I could do is actually to delete them and make them 3D instead. Because, and I'll tell you why in a second. I'm just gonna delete. Yeah, and hover. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and call it 3D timeline. I'm just gonna go ahead and rewrite them all. Essentially what I'm thinking of 3D is because I do want to hear the sounds in the world, like inside the panning region, inside the world. I want to hear it left, right, far, close. I want to hear those sounds in the world itself. I don't want to just hear it in 2D and like it's everywhere essentially. So I'm just going to rewrite them all as 3D, and then I'm going to show you some cool stuff. I'm going to fast forward a bit more here so that we can, I don't want to make you guys sit through all this. Just going to assign this to the bank, and let's fast forward. Before I do that, let me just show you exactly why 3D. So if I do click, like as you see in 2D, there's nothing on the right. If I click on 3D, you have the little spatializer. It shows you exactly like the patterning region of the sound. And if you look down here, there's something called spatializer. That's what's going to allow you to distinguish how far and how close you want to hear the sound, which is really cool. I don't know if you remember, but in Unity, we did the same thing in the Unity sound audio source. So here's going to be the same thing. It's just that we're going to do it through FMOD instead. So once again, let's fast forward. So here, now that I'm done writing all of them, I'm basically just going to take the actual audio files themselves, as you can tell, and I'm just going to have to drag them into FMOD. So all of those, let me just go ahead and, why did I do that? I just want to reopen it. Let me just go to player, let's go blaster, let's call blaster shots, and there you go. You just drag it in, and you don't have to do anything else. Really good. Yeah, there we go. You can hear it one more time. Beautiful. So now that we can hear it, let's go ahead and do like import all the sounds to all of them. So here you saw a little thing. You actually press F7. If you press F7, it builds automatically. You don't have to just drag it back to the bank. You just build the bank by pressing F7 like I just did. So let me go ahead and beautiful. Let me just import all the sounds, and I'll just fast forward a little bit here too. All right, so now I'm just gonna save it. I'm gonna save it to my hard drive. Just gonna call it FMOD workshop. Sounds accurate enough. Just gonna go ahead and save. And this is just saving, but the reason why I asked to F7 or build is because this is how you make sure that it integrates properly to Unity. If you don't F7, the changes don't register to Unity or into the actual build itself of the actual system of FMOD. So always press F7 and always save every time you do a change. That's how you make sure that the changes are integrated and registered, essentially. Okay, so now we have all these sounds right here. With enemies, all that stuff. I'm just going to continue putting the enemy sounds. Okay, so for this part right here, I'm going to take this opportunity to show you something cool. If you right click in that gray area right here and you go multi-instrument, so add multi-instrument, it's going to give you this green little air thing here, little green zone. This is going to allow you to, at the bottom, if I click right here at the bottom itself, on the actual file itself, at the bottom you have a little box. I'm going to drag the files that I want into that box. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag it, or drag them. So now if I play, you'll hear one after the other. which is ideally pretty cool because you can really just go crazy. And another thing I can show you, I'll get back to the actual multi-instruments. For now, yeah, this is the volume you can control. I'm going to build. And if you actually want to add a loop region, you want a file to loop and to repeat itself, like this one, the movement. If you right-click on that black area, right here, right-click, and you can put add loop region. So add loop region, and you can just drag it as much as you want. I want the whole file to repeat. So if I press play, it loops. It loops perfectly. So that's another cool thing that's going to be very useful. So whenever you want to loop, just again right-click on that black area and just put loop. All right, and obviously I want to spatialize it a little bit. I want the robot to I want to hear it only when I'm close enough, and that's what spatializer is for. Now going back to the multi-instruments, underneath here, you have like a bunch of options, right? So I want to click on, right here it's shuffle, I want to randomize it. That way it's a 50% chance for each of them to play, essentially. And you can even adjust that. If you put set percentage, you can even make one more than the other. Like I can go 70%, 60%. But now I don't want that, I'm just going to remove it. So I want 50-50 is perfect for me. Another thing that's really cool is if you right click on that pitch on the left here, so you see if you drag it left or right, it's going to do something different, like a higher pitch or lower pitch. But if you right click and you put add modulation and you press random, here you adjust the zone, how much change, what's the length of change you want it to happen. That's too much variety. I want to go a bit lower. So I want some change, just enough to notice, but not too much to go like, ooh, that's different. You know what I mean? So that's something really cool. You can add modulation, and the same thing with the volume as well. If you right click on the volume, you can tell the volume changes with every hit. So the pitch will change with every hit, and the volume will change with every hit. Not too much, just enough to hear it, and just enough for us to go like, okay, that's pretty cool. Because not every hit's going to be different, right? Not every time you're going to hit the enemy is going to sound the same. So, hover alert. Again, I want to spatialize them as well. I want to make sure that we hear only when we're close enough, essentially. So if I press on spatializer, that's going to make sure I only hear it whenever I'm close. And I'm going to do the exact same thing for the turrets. I'm just going to go ahead and add the files, the audio files. Okay, so now all the files are in there. All that's left is the music. There's no music, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and create something, and I'll be right back. Alright, welcome back. I do have 3 pieces now. I have the layer 1, layer 2, and the boss music. So let me just rename this one to main layer 1. Also, sorry, my video camera, like the camera itself, stopped working, so it's only my voice for now. I'm going to call this main layer 2. So what's gonna happen here is I want these music to interact either both vertically, sorry, and horizontally. So we're gonna layer them, and then we're gonna also resequence them, like we learned before. I'm just gonna remove that parameter that I have here, that I already, because I forgot to remove it before. So essentially how it's gonna work, let me just again try to remove this. There we go. So if I click on that, okay, remove, perfect. So how it's gonna work is these two, layer 1 and layer 2, the parameter you just saw is gonna control the volume. So layer 2 is gonna start off at 0 and slowly build up as the intensity goes up. And the same thing for the boss music, essentially. So first thing I'm gonna do is put a destination for each. The destination region is basically gonna help the system understand. So if I right click on the black part and I put destination region like I just did, it's gonna help us understand and help the system understand what track is what. So I'm gonna put this as main music, right click on the black again, add destination region, boss music. So the system's gonna understand that this is boss music and this is main music. I drag this one to the boss music. I'm gonna expand it. There you go. So now we have main music and boss music right next to each other, right? Let's take a listen for each. Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a loop region, like we did before. Right click on the black area, like now. I'm just gonna right click and put add loop region. Now we can't see it, but if you take the destination marker and you push it up, just click and drag up, you're able to expand the black area. I'm just gonna extend the loop. I'm gonna do the same thing for the boss music. There we go. So now let's listen to the first part. Now second. And here you had a little taste of what they sound like together, right? The both layers together, they sound pretty good. So essentially, so like again, the volume is going to control when layer 2 comes in. So let's listen to the second part, like the third and last piece. Alright, so now you might be wondering, how do we go about doing that? How do we create parameters? So, first of all, where it says timeline on the gray area, there's a plus next to it. So just go ahead and click on the plus. I'm just going to go ahead and click on that. And you have add parameter sheet. You want to add a parameter sheet. I already have intensity, but for the sake of showing you guys how it is, add parameter sheet. And here the type, there's multiple. Most common are label, which is very useful if you want to name specific parameters. But for my case, I want continuous, which is going to give us a value between 0 and 1. I'm going to do 0 to 100. And I'm also going to call it, so basically 0 to 100 is going to help me understand and help the system understand when to change and when the music is going to kick in. That's already taken, so I'm going to call it music intensity. Also, 0 to 100 could be health, for example, which could be very useful if you want to add some low-pass filters, for example. So I'm going to press OK. And there you go. So this is the parameter sheet. Right now, this is the normal one. If I go to parameter sheet, you will see it's 0 to 100. And it's right there. So I can really just mess around with it. But right now, it's a pretty useless sheet. It has no automation. So for layer 2, if I wanted to kick in at specific moments, I just have to right-click on the volume. I'm going to remove the automation, because I already had it. I'm going to add automation. So right-click again on the volume, not modulation, automation, and right here we have the whole volume. Now here, if you click on specific areas, like right now I went on 50, I just click on 50, another one here, and I wanted to really just, after 50, the intensity will go up, and so will the volume for layer 2. So right here you see I'm messing around with the toggle. So the intensity will control the volume at this point. So let's take a quick listen and see how it works. Alright, so it works perfectly well, which is great. Now, let's talk about horizontal resequencing. So I just built it, F7. Don't forget F7. You have to dream about F7. Anyways, let's make that horizontal resequencing work. We're going to use that parameter again. Just right-click on that black area, like we just did before. Let me just right-click, if I can aim correctly. That's not the right things. Let me just go here. No, there we go. I want to click on Add Transition Region to. We're gonna region, and we're just gonna pick battle music or boss music. So add transition to region boss music. Now you have that little green thing. Let me again to push everything up so we can see it clearly. Just gonna select the entire track. And then essentially what that's going to do is that it's going to allow us to transition between one area to another. Remember those markings we did before, those region markers? That's what's going to help us identify. So if you double click on that green part, you have this hidden zone. It's not technically part of the track, but it's going to help you transition a bit smoother. So what I'm going to do, I have this tiny little audio file here. I'm just going to drag and drop. I'm just going to have to arrange it a little bit. There we go. Just do that. You can also keep it as what before. So essentially what that's going to do is that whenever we do transition to the other boss music, we're going to hear that before as a transitional element. So how do we configure the parameter? That's pretty easy. The volume itself is going to be part of it, but so basically the transition, I want it to be at 90%. Once it is at 90% and more, that's when I want this music to kick in, to transition. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on that green thing like I did before. And at the bottom here, I'm just going to right click on the black area. add parameter condition and music intensity. And I wanted to make it 90% or 90 to 100. You can make it as large as you want, but personally for this area, for this specific music, it's going to be 90 to 100. And that's what's going to allow the system to understand that once it's at 90, it does not want to stay the same music, it wants to transition to the next music, the next piece. So maybe what we can do is we can take a little look and see how it works. So as you can tell, when we went down the intensity, the music did not change. That's because we don't have that green transition in the boss music yet. So I'm just going to right click, add transition to region, main music. So we did the exact same thing, but the transition is going to go back to the main music. So that way it can jump back and forth depending on the transition, depending on the intensity, sorry. Just going to drag it. And same as we did before, I'm going to click on the green zone, right click here. I'm going to put here music intensity, and I want it 89 to 0. Because that would make sense, because the two others will play between 0 and 89. Alright, as you may have noticed, when we went back to the main music, there was no smoothness, it went directly there because we didn't actually add a thing. So I'm going to add, I double clicked on the green zone and I added in this transitional piece a little music element. That way whenever we go back down, it's going to give that smoothness. And there you go, you've successfully created a good FMOD integrated setup. So now let's go back to Unity. I forgot one maybe element is for the footsteps, we can also create a randomizer like we did before. So we can go right click on pitch, add modulator, random. And we're going to select just like a good amount of a region for the pitch to go crazy with. So I'm doing the same thing for the jump and the land. I think mainly just the jump, but let's take a look. Okay, I'm pretty sure I'm going to do land as well. So let me just go ahead and do that. So again, right click, pitch, modulation, and there you go. Again, the whole point is to make sure it doesn't get boring, so the sounds change with every hit. So let me just go through them all just to make sure we get all the sounds. Okay, those are good. Yeah, seems like they're all good. So this is really just the FMOD. We integrated everything there. So now our work for Unity will be less hectic, essentially. So at this point, let's just head to Unity. Actually, before this, I just thought it might be a cool idea to show you some behind the scenes of What Remains of Ish, the game we're working on, especially with the music. So if I go to Old Village Ruins, let me just show you a bit how the music works as well. I even have this health parameter here, that whenever your health goes down, you're going to hear a low pass filter. And when your health goes back up, now you can tell that we didn't go back to the purple because it's not looping. So that green zone is a multi-instrument where I have multiple different tracks here. And I also have a silent track. And as you can tell, the silent track is, I believe, 40%. So 40% of the time it's going to play that silent track, which is a whole minute. So it's going to play one random track, which includes a silence, which is, as you can tell, on one 60-second track of silence. So if I play the tracks randomly, let me just go ahead and play. There we go, that's one of them. So let's play it one more time. That's another track. And as you can tell, every single track, there's silence. I made sure that you would wait 60 seconds at least between every track. Now just let me quickly show you how the health parameter works. So, no, we actually want to go back to music, Old Village Ruins. If I click on the health parameter, the sheet, and if I go to the master output at the bottom, so these are all the tracks, it's really going to be the one at the bottom right here. I'm just going to show you the automation. The EQ, you can tell it goes down if the health goes down. So this is health goes up, health goes down, and the EQ takes part. Which is pretty cool, because a lot of games use this as well, right? It's a very common and very famous way of indicating health issues or low health. So essentially you just have to, if you want to do it, you just press on the master. You right click on the little side part and you put add effect, then you find the one you want. In my case, I clicked low pass filter, but you can add flanger, you can add some whatever you want. You can literally just manipulate the output as much as you want, or as crazy as you want. I went with the cliche. But as you can tell here, as the health goes down, the cutoff goes down as well. And that's basically how you can add a low pass filter. So now let me just show you some other stuff. These are the sound effects. As you can tell, for a wood mask creature, I have some silence here. That way I make sure that it doesn't play all the time. There's a break between groups. Now, in previous videos, I've mentioned how important ambience is, ambient sound effects are. So let me just show you how FMOD can be great for integrating ambience. That way it never gets boring. So let me just pick one and take a listen. As you can tell, I have a multi-instrument here as well, so every time it goes through it, a different sound will get it, will trigger. We also have things like, I mentioned SFX sound design. So I've showed you these on my logic file last video. These are just integrated into FMOD. Now, I may not have mentioned this last video, but the whole point of these little notes is that they go along with the theme. That little purple part, the entire game is in one key, essentially. That way the menu, the UI, will sound good no matter what. We also have things like multi-instruments for melee voice. These are just multiple grunts. They are also randomized, and I didn't really mess around with the volume or the pitch so much. Player depth, exact same thing, also randomized. And there you go. This is just a little bonus to show you a few more ways to integrate how to set up FMOD. So our next step is how to integrate it to Unity. So let's get on that right away. Alright, so I have my browser here. I'm just gonna go to the Unity Asset Store, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you are familiar with by now. So Unity Asset Store. There we go. I'm just gonna type in on the search bar FMOD. The first thing you should see is FMOD for Unity. That's the package you need. Just click on that. And what you want to do is add to my assets. Now, I already have it personally. It's you can also read about it. It's really useful, honestly, just to read about it, get more comfortable with it. I already have it, so if I just go to Unity, that was my video manager right here. It's my iMovie. This is me creating the video. How crazy! Anyways, so if I just go to Unity, this is the hub and FMOD workshop. That's what I call the actual Unity folder. Let's let it load. This might take a while because I'm saving it to the hard drive, so I'm just gonna speed through it. And there we go. We should be slowly opening a new file. It might take even a bit more time. I'll give it, there we go. Perfect. So this is the game itself. I've showed you the game before. So what we want to do is just add FMOD, the package we just got, to Unity. So these are all the pieces. So I'm just gonna go to window, there we go. Go to package manager. Just let it load. Now on the top here it says package in project. I don't want that. I want to click on that and go to my assets. There we go. These are all my assets. Please don't judge. Thank you very much. One of them will be FMOD for Unity right there. So all we have to do is download it and import it. It seems like there's an update. I might update it real quick. It's not too long. It's good to update your things here and there, but be careful because sometimes it will mess everything up. And now we're just gonna import. This might take a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds. Because it's a pretty big file too, because the whole point of FMOD for Unity is really to just help you out in integrating everything flawlessly, right? There we go, just press import again. And there you go. FMOD should appear soon. There we go. FMOD unit wizard setup wizard. Just gonna ignore that for a bit. Mistakes are made. I'm just gonna forget about that. There we go. So on the top here you have FMOD now. You just want to go to edit settings. So basically in this entire thing, you go edit settings on FMOD. Right here you have a little error. That's fine. So what you want to do is browse and you want to select your actual FMOD project. Mine's right there. Perfect. Coincidence? I don't think so. Great. You have to select your actual FSPRO file, like your actual FMOD file. And then you press open. And there you go. This is basically integrated. Just make sure that it's all good. Now you have those asset bounds, and streaming asset is the one you want. And done. This is basically how you integrate FMOD to Unity. Alright, so full disclaimer, my first-person shooter Unity thing got deleted and it kind of crashed and corrupted, so I can't really use that anymore. So instead I'm going to show you a different micro game. It's the actual kart one, the kart racing. What's fun about that is that FMOD on the website, you do have a full tutorial of most of the things I'm going to show you. They have it by text, so this is going to be like a video version of it. Also going to show you some bonus stuff, but just so you know, you also have those online as well. So I'm going to base it from that as well. Secondly, I'm not going to show you the first few things I'm going to show you again, because the integration and the things in FMOD, all that is the exact same. Now I'm just going to show you how to integrate it into Unity. So let's go ahead and start, and let's take a look at the game. As you can tell, I removed all the audio, at least most of it. And let's start, perhaps, let me show you the FMOD package actually. So you can, if you want, create a new thing, but what's cool is that once you do have FMOD, let me just show you real quick. So this is actually a project that everyone has when you download FMOD. It's called Examples, and it helps you with tutorials and stuff. So this entire project you already have, everyone has once you download FMOD. So I went to vehicles, and I went to kite on mower, that's what it's called, yeah. And everyone has those. So this one specifically has two parameters, the RPM and the load. And it's, now right now, for example, it's playing. So take a look. How cool is that, right? Same thing as I showed you before. It's really just adjusting the volume through the parameters. In this case, it's also continuous, so it's a value between a certain number and a certain number, and the volume goes up depending on that number, right? So same exact thing as I showed you before, and even added one for the load, as you can tell here. So it's, again, pretty self-explanatory. It's not that complicated or complex. So it's really cool. So now let's take a look and see in Unity how we can just integrate this for it to make sense, essentially. So we are in Unity now. First thing we're gonna do is, this is the giant hierarchy. I removed all the audio, like I said. I'm gonna hit the main camera, and I'm gonna add a listener. Just like Unity has a listener, FMOD has one too. So I'm just gonna type in FMOD Studio Listener, and that's it. That's all I'm gonna do. And that's it. Literally now I can add as much audio as I want and it will play. I'm not sure why I played this part because honestly, like, it's obvious no sound's gonna come out of it because it's only its listener. So let's actually implement a sound. In the hierarchy, in my case, I have something called Arcade Engine Audio right here. All I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna add a component. Yeah, there's a script right there. It's just an FMOD Studio event emitter. I wanted to start, so you have a bunch of options. You have play event, stop event, and the event itself. I want the event to start when it starts, essentially, when the object starts, which is the game. I don't want it to end right now. And I'm just going to browse in the event. I'm just going to click on that magnifying glass. And I'm going to select the actual engine. Right here you have initial parameter value. If I go back to my actual FMOD, that's the value, right? It goes from 0 to 2000. So I want it right now to be around 1000. I think that's a good amount. That's also what they show you in the online tutorial, so it could be a good idea. So I'm going to put add RPM, and I'm going to set it to 1000. You can obviously type it in, which as a freak, I want to be 100%. 100%. Let's play and listen. So as we can tell, the sound is there. It's just stuck at 1000. And because we haven't set a parameter change yet. For example, if I change it to 2000, the sound's going to be as if it's in 2000. Take a look. As you can see, it's very noisy. It's supposed to be the max. Now if we put it to the minimum, you're barely going to hear anything at all. So, as you can tell, you can barely hear anything. So, how can I make sure that the parameters of the RPM change with the actual speed of the car? So if I go to Assets, I go to Karting, I go to Scripts, and I have something here that says Kart Game. There it is. So if I just click on that, in the inspector itself, you have something called Assembly Definition Reference. Essentially what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to click on the plus and enter. I'm just going to add FMOD. Because right now what I'm doing is I'm allowing Unity to have FMOD control a few things, essentially. It's the plugin, and I'm going to let FMOD control the speed and change, so that way it can change the parameters. There we go. And once it's there, don't forget to press apply. Alright, so now that the plugin of FMOD is there, I'm just going to go back to, where is it? There we go, Arcade Engine Audio, which is under Kart Classic Player. So I just have to go now to Arcade Engine Audio. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to edit the script that says Arcade Engine Audio. I'm just going to go to the three dots on the right, and that's going to help me edit the parameters, essentially. And that's the old script. That's how it looked like. And the new script looks like this. I'm just going to delete it and paste this script. The script is also smaller and pretty easy because it's less less of a headache for Unity. So you have the public float. You have essentially what I'm going to do is, you can tell it's from 0 to 100. I'm going to include the RPM inside the actual script. Now that script itself is actually found in the FMOD tutorial integration. That's the one they gave you, and honestly it works perfectly well. So I'm going to go back to Arcade Engine Audio. I'm going to go edit script again. That's the new script. Again, old script, new script. Old script, it's pretty long, a lot of complicated stuff. New script, smaller, slimmer, makes sense. It's straight to the point. So this is the arcade cart. This is the void. This is the actual command that's going to help us get the actual audio. And this is what's going to help us control the RPM. So, get component, FMOD, set parameter. So this is what's going to help us set the parameter from RPM and kind of combine it with the actual speed of the carts. So let's go back to script. Don't forget to command save whenever you're all good. Now that I've gone through all of it, again, pretty straightforward script that you can find online. Command save. Let's just wait for Unity to do its thing, and let's take it for a test drive. Yes, pun very much intended. Now you might not realize it because it's also very monotone. The sound doesn't really change much, but that's because it stays at 2000 essentially. So because if you play it, you realize it's not really 1000, it's a little bit more than that. So that it does implement, it does go faster. It just doesn't sound great, right? It doesn't sound as good as it should. So let me just show you again, and you'll judge for yourself. So you can tell that yes, when you slow down, it slows down with you, but again, it doesn't sound as good as it should. Like if we go back to FMOD, it does sound way better. So how can we fix this? Let's go back to Unity. We're basically going to re-edit the script, just a little tiny detail. So let's go to the Arcade Engine audio script. Let's edit it. Now as you see, the public floats, it goes from 0 to 5000. But if you go back to FMOD, this is FMOD, it goes from 0 to 2000. So there's a lot of room where the audio does not make sense. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to Unity, to the actual script, and we're just gonna change from 5000 to 2000. Now command save. We're gonna wait for Unity to do its thing, and now whenever I do press play, it should make more sense, essentially. So let's just give it a second, and let's press play. Get out of here, FMOD. This is because of the update. Now, I don't know about you, but I personally think it sounds way better. It's not a big difference, but it sounds, you can tell in the way it sounds. It's cleaner and it's smoother. It makes more sense, right? So it goes really from 0 to 2000. Now, how about ambience? We don't really have a lot of ambience when it comes to racing games, but you do have, some cheering or maybe some traffic or stuff like that. So in the same FMOD examples that everyone should have, if you click on, you have country. You got something like forest. Sounds beautiful, but the one we're interested in is city. So city doesn't sound much until you raise the traffic and all that stuff. So right now it's playing, for example, but let me just raise a few things. Now what would be interesting is to have the traffic and a bit of talking into the actual game. So let's go to background music. This is the same thing as if I created an empty. It's just an empty game object. I'm going to add a component. I'm going to add an FMOD Studio emitter. So object start. So I wanted to start from the beginning, right? I selected the actual city. Now, the initial parameter value, I added the actual traffic. I wanted around 30, or 0.30 technically, or 0.40. That could be also good. And I can also add, that would be it. You can also add the actual talking. That one may be a little bit less. And let's play the game and hear how it goes. Now we didn't really hear a lot of those sounds, so if I put both of them to 1, we should definitely hear them way more now. But obviously having them that loud ruins the game a bit because it doesn't make sense. So having just a bit of it, a bit of both, more than before, less than now, right here in the middle should be perfectly fine to kind of set an ambience, set a mood for the game. So once again, let's play with the medium or moderate amount of sound, and let's see how it sounds like. Now considering the setting maybe doesn't make too much sense, so maybe adding a bit of forest sounds would have been better. That's okay. So I added another FMOD event emitter, and I'm just gonna add the music essentially. So we're gonna add the music right away and see how it goes with it. So I can just add another music because we already have those 3. I would not say this fits the game, so let's try something else. Now these two don't fit either, so let's try is the radio. Now that sounds really cool, and maybe it could be an idea, but maybe for now let's just right click on music, new event, and new 2D timeline. I'm just going to call it cart music. I'm just going to assign to bank. I'm going to assign it to actually music right here. If you go to banks, there's one for music, and all of them are under the master. It's just a fun way or a practical way to differentiate the sound effects, the music, the dialogue, all that stuff, so that whenever you're mixing, it makes sense and it's easy to organize yourself. Also, if you go to Window and you go to Mixer, you have them all here. So you can also drag that piece into the music. That way it is really part of the mixing process of the music specifically. And you can just command them all at the same time. So this is just another fun, more in-depth way of using FMOD. I don't need this anymore, so let's go back to... Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to my Logic Pro session. I'm just going to take a look, see if there's anything we can use. If not, I'll just create something quick. I'm just going to wait for that to open. A Day in Paradise. Let's take a look and see if it fits to the game. So probably not, because that doesn't make sense. So I'm just gonna create something new, something really quick, and let's see what I can come up with, and let's see if we can integrate it. Alright, in this section I'm basically going to be talking about horizontal resequencing like we did before, and one-shot commands. I'm going to explain more what those are, but let's just move back to FMOD. I did this little piece. Maybe not the greatest thing ever, but it loops. It sounds not too horrible, and it could work. Let me just build it. Now, technically, we can use the music I just made. Little cart music right there. Okay, we already heard it. We don't need to hear it again. Or we can use the radio, and I'll show you why. Now, maybe I've played way too much GTA in my life, but when it comes to cars, I like to hear a radio. Now, what I thought it could be interesting is for each of these checkpoints, you have checkpoint 1, and checkpoint 2. Let me just see if I can zoom in. You can tell I lack my expertise when it comes to Unity. Please forgive me. So, anyways, the point is, for each of these checkpoints, I want that whenever the car goes through them, I want the music and the radio to change, which could be pretty interesting, and it will show you how horizontal resequencing could work in the scenario. So what we'll do is we'll go to the main camera. I'll add the event, FMOD event emitter. I'll call it obviously object starts. I don't want it to end, so I'm just going to choose the radio. So there we go, we have the radio here. You can tell the path, same path as music to radio here. And obviously I would want to add the parameter. So parameter, I'm just going to add the frequency. And I'll leave it to 0 for now. Let me just see if it's advanced things. And let's take a look and listen how it sounds for now. Pretty sick, and that's great. We might want to reduce the volume. I'm just going to reduce it on this part, build it. Let's see if it works. Nope, still causing a bit of loudness. Let me see if I can just go to the mixer, reduce the mixer of the music directly, and maybe to here. Build, go back to the game and see if that works this time. After a while of trying, I realized Unity actually had an issue with the volume, so that couldn't work. So I'm just gonna go back, I'm just gonna ignore it, it's not the end of the world. I'm just gonna add, for each checkpoint, I'm gonna go, there's something called FMOD, so add component. So you can tell that each of these have the same colliders, and the same pickup object script. So there's a thing called FMOD, there we go, Studio Parameter Trigger. I'm just gonna go ahead and select the main camera because that's the one that has the music. If you can take a look here, it has the music and the parameters there. So the parameters will automatically transfer to this part. So if I take a look at the trigger, I can go object destroys. Whenever an object is destroyed, like the ring, because it disappears. If it disappears, I want it to change the radio. I want the frequency to change to 1.30 or so. Yep, that should be fine. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other two checkpoints. So object destroy, because once it destroys, I want it to go change the radio. I think it's 2 point. Let me just close here. I just want to make sure it doesn't go into scratchy parts. As you can tell, the volume did go down here. It's just Unity does not want to accept that integration part, but that's okay. I don't have to fix everything for now. But now that I have all these there, let's see how they sound like. And there you go. How cool is that? The music changed with every single thing. So literally the possibilities are endless at this point. One more aspect I wanted to show you guys is one of the sounds that you have in this FMOD project. So let me just leave this part. Let's go to UI and cancel. I like the cancel better. It sounds cool. So essentially what I'm thinking is whenever you go through one of those hoops, one of those checkpoints, I want to hear that sound. And that's a perfect opportunity to show you the play one shot code. Probably the most useful code you'll ever use in your entire life. First, let me just go ahead and quiet down the music so we can hear it. I don't need to remove the components. I might just uncheck it, and there we go. So let's go to each one of those checkpoints. Well, actually not each, just one of those checkpoints. You can tell that the script is the same for all three. So, as you can tell, same script. Perfect. I'm just going to go to the script, edit script. Now, it's nothing really major. This is the part where us composers and sound designers, we don't understand, most of us, or at least some of us, don't understand scripts very well, which is fine. But what is an important skill to understand is to know where to implement certain codes. So in this entire script, it says here on collect. And you can tell if you read a little bit, everything in the middle here is what happens once you collect a checkpoint, which is perfect. So I'm just going to go underneath here, go FMOD. Actually, let me just enter a bit more and to have more space so you can see exactly what I'm writing. FMOD Unity dot runtime manager. I had to memorize this entire code. Dot play one shot. There we go. And now I'm just gonna open a parentheses. There we go, quote unquote, event, quote unquote, slash, quote unquote. And essentially here, you're just gonna retrace the entire path. So it's UI, slash. What comes after UI? Cancel. And that's it. You can go as far as you want. You can go UI2 cancel, but right now it's just UI cancel. Close the parentheses, comma, get components, transform. Now, usually, let me just finish the code first. Parentheses open and close, put dot position, and the semicolon at the end. Never forget that part. And the dot before position. Now, usually the transform does light up blue. I'm not sure why it's not doing it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check my code. I have it written down fully. There we go. FMOD Unity codes, only the one shot. I'm just going to go through it all, play one shot, event UI cancel, perfect, get component, transform. Once in a while I like to check it just to make sure. I did memorize it, but just to be sure you have to double check, because again, as I mentioned in the first two videos, every single element counts. One wrong letter and you're doomed. And it sounds good. So let me just command and save. And we'll go take a look. Well, first let's save, and let's go back to Unity, and once it finishes doing its thing, let's take a look and see if it did work or not. Alright, now just to make sure it's the same sound as the one we heard before, let me just go back to FMOD. Perfect. It sounds just like that, and it worked. I'm so happy it worked. You know, honestly, the thing is about not knowing what you're doing, and it works, you're happy. So let's take a listen take a listen to the whole thing, with the music, with the sounds, and see what we have so far, shall we? And there you go. We've implemented the music, we've implemented horizontal resequencing. That could easily also be just layering. If we did the previous FPS, it would have sounded the same thing, same parameters, would have been great. And the one shot. And there we go, congrats. Now, one more element I want to add, like a bonus, is buttons. Buttons can be a very good tool to implement sounds. In the kart racing, the buttons weren't just the button system, and the UI system was not very great, because to be fair, it's a base model, it's like a template and you have to build on it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna show you how to implement certain sounds to buttons, and more specifically buttons in user interfaces. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open the FMOD of What Remains of Ish, the project of What Remains of Ish. It lagged, so I'm just gonna have to reopen it. What Remains of Ish, FSPRO. Let's go to Sounds, let's go to UI, Main Menu, and Options. Or, yeah, the options is the one we're gonna hear. Now this is the start, but we're gonna hear the options instead. Like I mentioned earlier, it's 4 different pieces and they go well with music, same key. So in What Remains of Ish, this is the Unity project. Foof and Sasha, don't kill me. So what we're gonna do, this is the main menu, that's fine. You want the actual scene itself, right? I don't care for this, hold on. No, let me just remove that. Let's take the actual scene on the right. There we go. Let's just drag that one in. I'm gonna go to the main menu. I'm going to go to Tiles, Buttons, right here, and Start button. Let's just do that one button, because they're all the same, honestly. Same principle for each. Right here, you can tell it's a button because, for one, you have the on-click little place here. I'm just going to remove the sound for now, so I can show you exactly how to implement it. And you can also have the button, you have the actual button function, which is great. So, I have a script here. I'm just going to edit it. This is a pretty common script for FMOD for the use of buttons. It's just a way to trigger audio and to find the actual function inside the click. So let's just wait for this to open. Let's do some big mouse movements. It's a very small script. So you have public string and you have the public bool. So the thing is, the public class is what we need. The actual trigger audio is for us to select it through in the list. So public void, play the shot. The whole point is this is the command for us to get the sound we need that we're going to choose inside Unity in the inspector. We have the private void, obviously, and we have the play one shot, the function to play a sound. So this is the small script. I'm just going to exit this. I'm not the best at explaining scripts, I'm so sorry. So essentially, once you have that script, it allows you to choose the sound you want. This is going to be the same for each. If I go to options, I have it right there. So start button, if I go to, yeah, there we go. So you can select what you want. I chose the options for the start because this is the main menu. And on the on-click function, I'm just going to click on the little plus. And where it says non-object, I'm just going to drag the start button and put it there. There we go. Now the no function has lit up. I'm just going to click this and put trigger audio. That is the public string that we've implemented. I'm just going to put play one shot. So now, whenever I play the game, I'm just going to remove that. Just save it, and whenever I play the game, I should hear, when I play start, I should hear the actual sound. And there you go, you heard the sound. And just to make sure it sounds the same. Because this is a shuffle, so it's going to play different sounds every time. Technically, if I go back to Unity and I play more than once, I should hear a sound every single time. That was a different sound from before. Let's try it one more time. And there you go. I think I should have muted the music, but that's okay. And this is really just a fun way to implement for the UI specifically through FMOD. And I hope you guys, as you can tell, every button is the same. Some buttons I didn't implement in audio, like this one. Actually, I did implement this one. I think they quit. I didn't implement any sounds on it. But every single button is the exact same process. You just have to select the different different sound. And that's it. This is how you implement sounds to your UI, to your user interface. Pretty easy. The easiest part of this entire video was this, most probably. But yeah, and there you go. So as always, but yeah, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in and hearing what I have to say. And yeah, and I hope you learned something throughout this course. maybe even if it's just one thing, that's okay. As long as we learn something, that's fine with me, or understood the concepts. And I know I might have spoken too fast or not have explained something as clear as it should have. But in case you have any questions about any of the topics visited, please don't hesitate to message me on Discord. I'll be more than happy to just help you out or at least point you at the right direction. I might not have all the answers, but I might know someone who does. You never know. And other than that, thank you for taking this adventure with me. This is the last music and sound effect course, so thanks for taking this little adventure with me. It was really fun meeting all you guys and having a blast. You're gonna have such a good time at the Gaming Academy. And well, yes, I'm an organizer, so I'll be working closely with you guys. Um, but if you have any questions throughout the 2 months of music or sounds or anything, just message me. I'll be more than happy to help you out, and or at least try my best to, right? But yeah, that being said, thank you very much for coming in, and have yourselves a great evening as it's 9 p.m. God, that's very late. That's my bedtime. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, cheers. Have yourselves a great time, and see you guys very soon. Peace.